trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God. Age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. The Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God. How great above all our God. Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will sing, my heart will sing, how great is our God. How great above all our God. Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will sing, my heart will sing, how great is our God. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt lower, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found. These are 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. The reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found. These are 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. The reckless love of God. Oh, you chase me down. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Good evening. My name is Jason Hollinger. I'm the preaching and community minister here at the Central Church of Christ, and we are beginning a new evening devotional study tonight. We will kick off and again pick back up on Monday night at 8 o'clock around this theme of mission and outreach. And one of the things that we come to realize in the midst of being disciples who intentionally live to lead others to become disciples, not disciples of themselves, but disciples of Christ. One of the things we come to understand, to discover, is a reality that our world is in chaos. And I don't mean the kind of chaos that I'm talking about that we're experiencing right now in the sense of this virus and all these unknown things that we are experiencing in this world. I mean in the sense that we live in a world of chaos because we live in a world that has rejected God's plan for humanity, that has in many cases turned its back on God. But then you have those within that paradigm of people. You have those that are and have and will come to place their trust in God and will seek to find His direction and find His purpose for their lives. And so as we think about a world in chaos, and as we think about the fact that we are in the midst of a kingdom movement, we must understand the present reality before we can address and lead people to where they need to go. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, right after this time in worship.
Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord our God. You reign forever. Our hope, our strong deliverer. You are the everlasting God, the everlasting God. You do not faint, you won't grow weary. You're the defender of the weak. You comfort those in need. You lift us up on wings like eagles. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord our God. You reign forever. Our hope, our strong deliverer. You are the everlasting God, the everlasting God.
Well, when I was a kid, we just disappeared all day long, and Mom never really worried about anything except when we were going to be home for dinner.
You know, you could take off and go to the park or play on the street or ride your bike around, and now, you know, you let your kid go out in the front yard alone, you can get in trouble.
I really love kids and watching how they're growing up. Not like parents are doing a bad job raising them, but in regards to what they're being exposed to at a certain young age can be problematic.
And I do believe that the world is in, I would say, complete turmoil and chaos right now.
We're dealing with a lot of stuff, racism, poverty-stricken areas.
How people are treating immigrants, how people are treating those of Islamic faith.
Whenever you go to YouTube, you go to any blogger sites, you see like a lot of nasty things come up.
Sex trafficking and like drugs and all that kind of stuff.
You know, broken families or, you know, unwanted children is a particular concern of mine.
ISIS is horrible, it's terrible. We'll find a way to overcome that, but once you cut off the head of one snake, there's another one waiting to pop out again.
The media, I feel like, perpetuates perversion. It takes everything out of God's divine order.
One of the biggest things is the media. Seems to spin it whatever way is good for their views and not actually what is truth and what is good for the country and what is good for everybody.
Most people who vote don't know what they're voting for. They're like, yeah, we're Republican, or yeah, we're Democrats. You don't know what you're voting for.
It's so violent now throughout all communities, not just one anymore.
Well, world in chaos. Listen to this from Romans chapter 1. I'm gonna start in verse 18, and I want to read this to you from the Message translation. It says, "But God's angry displeasure erupts as acts of human mistrust and wrongdoing and lying accumulate, as people try to put a shroud over truth. But the basic reality of God is plain enough. Open your eyes, and there it is. By taking a long and thoughtful look at what God has created, people have always been able to see what their eyes as such can't see. Eternal power, for instance, and the mystery of his divine being. So nobody has a good excuse. Whatever happened was this: people knew God perfectly well, but when they didn't treat him like God, refusing to worship him, they trivialized themselves into silliness and confusion, so that there was neither sense nor direction left in their lives. They pretended to know it all, but were illiterate regarding life. They traded the glory of God, who holds the whole world in his hands, for cheap figurines you can buy at any roadside stand. So God said, in effect, if that's what you want, then that's what you get. It wasn't long before they were living in a pig pen, smeared with filth, filthy inside and out. And all this because they traded the true God for a fake God and worshiped the God they made instead of the God who made them. Well, I like that. I'm going to read it again. And all this because they traded the true God for a fake God and worshiped the God they made instead of the God who made them. The God we bless, the God who blesses us, oh yes. Worse followed. How worse can it get, right? But worse followed, it said. Refusing to know God, they soon didn't know how to be human either. Women didn't know how to be women. Men didn't know how to be men. Sexually confused, they abused and defiled one another. Women went with women, men with men, all lust, no love. And then they paid for it. Oh, how they paid for it. Emptied of God and love, godless and loveless wretches. Not a lot of beautiful imagery there. Not a lot of pictures, not a lot of verses you're gonna put on your wall in your house and be inspired by, and you're gonna see in businesses, all these things. We don't see this. We don't see these things because we don't like to focus on it, right? But what we have to understand is the reality of it all. Is that we live in a broken world. We live in a world that has traded the truth of God for a lie, who has decided to worship the things they created rather than the ones who created them. Remember, I said I'd say it twice. Third time, it sounds just as great, right? And just as powerful, because when we then see that our call as disciple makers who go out to live on mission and who go and seek to reach out and meet the needs of those that we see in our community. And I'm talking about those that seem fortunate and those who seem less fortunate. I'm talking about meeting needs, not just physical needs, but spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical needs. And by seeing that how we address every situation we go, then when we can look and see everybody that we come in contact with every day as those, until we know otherwise, in need of a relationship with Jesus, in need of a relationship with God. When we go out that way, intentionally that way, seeking to see people, seeking to speak into and serve into and disciple into a world in chaos, then we'll start to see the reality of things. That even if you do come across somebody that does know Christ, and you start that conversation with them, and they say, well, yes, I am a Christian. Well, you've also begun a conversation possibly of now someone else that you could challenge to live on mission, or you've made another connection. You made a connection with another disciple. And you can explain to them what you're doing and why you ask these questions, and then challenge them to ask somebody else that question, because we live in a world that has rejected God, and God calls his disciples to live on a purpose for his purpose, to be kingdom movers, to be kingdom shakers, if you will, to go and lead people to the saving grace, to the saving arms of Jesus. And listen, it's not going to be easy. There are going to be times that you are going to experience rejection, and you're going to experience shame. But man, just the reward of that moment when you see change happening in somebody's life. You see something there that wasn't there before. You change not just a life, but you change a family. You change generations. You change communities. You change an outlook on life. When we make a decision to live intentionally with conviction as disciples of Christ. Because right now, we can see, as the NIV says, the wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godliness and the wickedness of men who suppress the truth by their wickedness. And when we see a world, we see people in this world that are not where God intended them to be. Shouldn't be up to us to speak into that moment, to speak into that heart, to speak into that mind, to speak into that life the words of Jesus, to love them like Jesus would, to feed them like Jesus would, to give them drink like Jesus would, clothe them like Jesus would. And again, not just physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. All those things together. I want to invite you to join us tomorrow morning. We get started at 9:30 with our adult Bible class, 10:10 our core youth ministry devotional, 10:25 children's worship, and then our worship service starts at 10:30, where we will be in week 3 of our sermon series titled Exclusively for Everyone, And we're going to look at the not but God, but not. And if you're wondering exactly, okay, what is that about? Join us tomorrow morning and we'll see. God bless.
Broke through my night, restored exceeding joy. Your grace fell like the rain and made this desert live. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have turned my sorrow into joy. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have turned my sorrow into joy. Your hand lifted me up. I stand on higher ground. Your praise rose in my heart and made this valley sing. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have turned my sorrow into joy. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have turned my sorrow into joy. This is how we overcome. 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 You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have turned my sorrow into joy. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have turned my sorrow into joy. This is how we overcome. 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 You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have turned my sorrow into joy. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have turned my sorrow into joy. This is how we overcome. This is how